Hello, this is Stowe, and this is my video lesson for the Shinhan University application. Today I'm going to guide you through how I would go through a present perfect simple versus past simple 60-minute grammar and writing lesson. So first I'd open it up with a 4-minute warm-up activity. I'd ask the students to stand up and mingle around and ask each other 2 questions that I've already written out. The first one would be, find someone who did the same thing as you on the weekend. So the point of this would be to get them to practice the past simple. Also, the second question would be, find someone who has been on the same vacation spot as you, and that would require them to use the present perfect simple grammar tense in order to answer that question. During this warm-up activity, I'm not worried about accuracy or fluency at all. I just want to get them to try to express these things, and hopefully, because they've done some homework before, they'll actually be able to create some sentences. But it doesn't matter, we're just warming them up. Next, we're going to go to the grammar section review. Now, this grammar can be really boring and complicated, and I believe that the students can learn this stuff on their own. This would only be a quick refresher, because last night for homework, I would have assumed that they would have studied about this stuff in my homework assignment that I gave them. So what I would do during this section is I'm just trying to explain to the students and make sure they understand the point of the lesson, which is to identify when to use past simple and when to use present perfect simple. And the 3 points of emphasis I'm trying to make in this particular lesson revolve around the fact that past simple is something that has happened in the past, it's finished, a completed action. We are focused on the moment of time when it actually happened, and we're talking about it now. Versus present perfect simple, which is more related on experience and less related to the specific time when this event occurred. And so I would try to use these 3 points to make the students understand that difference between specific time-oriented completed events and experiential events that could have happened at any time, could even be repeated events as they relate to now. So just a quick example of what I would do is for the first point, I'd want to talk about the certain time in the past versus something that has just happened or already happened or didn't happen yet. So up here I wrote, and you can see these all on this paper that I'm giving you. Up here I wrote, I called Mary 2 minutes ago versus I have just called Mary. So in this section, we would have been focusing on the 2 minutes ago. It could be replaced with 1 year ago or 30 seconds ago, etc. Doesn't matter. But in this case, we're really focused on the time that it happened, and it's a completed event. And then what I would want the students here, I have just called Mary, I would want them to understand that some experience in the past, which is in a close relationship to now, happened, and now we're talking about it. We don't really care exactly the moment, 30 seconds ago, 1 minute ago, 1 hour ago. That's not important, just that it happened before. Versus here, which is very specific about the time. We could also explain about something that happened already. I have already called Mary, or not yet. I have not yet called Mary. Anyway, the second point that I would want to distinguish is comparing a certain event in the past with something that happened repeatedly or just at any time as an experience. So I wrote, they went to Canada last summer. So last summer is clearly the point that we're looking at versus present perfect simple, have you ever been to Canada? So here, as you can see, we went last summer. We're focused on a completed event that's over, and over here, we're asking more as an experience. Have you ever been? So the answer, of course, would be yes, I have been twice, or no, I haven't been, or I haven't been yet. Something like this. The point here I would want to make is that With the past simple, it's something that happened for sure in the past that's over, versus present perfect simple, which is at any point between the past, when you were born, until now, did it happen? Could happen multiple times, but did it happen, yes or no? And finally, I would want to make the point that past simple focuses on an action, whereas present perfect simple focuses on the results or consequences of an action. So in this case, I wrote, I bought a new bike. It's just over. There's really nothing else. It's a statement. It's done. Whereas here, I have bought a new bike. That's more focused on the result that will come later. So I bought a new bike. It's finished. It's done. I have bought a new bike. That means up until now, I bought a new bike, and I want to talk about that result of that action. So I bought a new bike, so I don't have any money. I bought a new bike, and I want to exercise. I bought a new bike, now I can travel around the city. Whatever. But the past simple is more about the action, whereas the present perfect simple is more about the consequence or result of that action. These are the 3 points I want the students to understand, and I'll make sure that we do some guided questions and feedback, and I'll even ask them for examples during this grammar section to make sure that they understand it. Afterwards, I'll move on to the key vocabulary section. Now, this one, I would have assumed that these students would be studying this on their own using an application that I like to use called Memrise. What I would have done in this case is I would have given these vocabulary words as homework quite a while ago, and they would be practicing, and I can check because I will make a chat room or a classroom on the app, and I can check the progress of the students and see that they're actually memorizing the words, and I can tell who is doing better or worse based on their points that they receive. So in this section I would go through very quickly, and I would do more of a question and answer randomly with the students. For example, Billy, what did you do yesterday? Now, that would require him to respond with a past simple expression, so yesterday. Yesterday I went to blah blah blah. He would have to use that grammar point with me. And I would ask someone else using a present simple or present perfect simple word. For example, ever. Billy, have you ever been to Mount Everest? No, I haven't been to Mount Everest. In this way, he would have to use present perfect simple to answer my question. And then I would start asking students to use the vocabulary to ask each other question and answer, and I would go around the class and listen for correctness and accuracy. If I started to notice some things weren't working or the students weren't understanding or using the words correctly, I would write down silently a few examples of that and then bring it back up to the board, put it on the board, and ask why they're right or wrong, and ask for student feedback and input. So after the key vocabulary, I do a guided activity. And to do this guided activity, which I would have created before the class, I'm going to use another app that I like to use called Socrative. Now Socrative is something that's a teacher assistant that I could use. It's free. All the students can download a student version, and I would download the teacher version. I would have put the following activity, which you can see on your attached PDF file. I would put these questions and these pictures into that, and I would moderate the questions about this right now in class. So I would give them question 1, question 2, question 3, and as they responded, I could see their answers live and who it was that responded and in what way they responded. So I can tell at this point whether the students are getting it or not, and I can tell exactly who is understanding it and who's not. This is really helpful for me because I understand if they're getting the point of the lesson or if they need to be retaught. Depending on how they perform on this, I'll either continue through as is, pair weak and strong students together, or if it's really bad, I'll go back up on the board and reteach the grammar and go through each question. Another thing I'll do during this guided activity, since it only takes them maybe 3 or 4 minutes to answer the questions, it gives me 6 or so minutes to ask them some follow-up questions. So for example, if I wanted to make sure they understand King Sejong is dead, so we're going to use past simple to talk about him, I will pick one of the questions about Sejong. So he helped Korea conquer parts of China and Russia. Then I'll ask him a follow-up question. Does anybody know when King Sejong died? Or how much of China did he conquer? Or what is his most famous invention? Something like that. And they're going to have to answer using the correct grammar or they won't be able to. And at that point, if they're answering me correctly, I know that it's okay to move on to the more free activity. So moving on to that free activity, what I've done, feeding off of this activity that we just did, is I've given them about 25 minutes to work together with a partner, and they're going to write about Barack Obama. So what I want them to do is make a questionnaire, almost like an interview style, and they're going to give Barack Obama an interview. So first what I want them to do is, of course it's an imaginary interview. First I want them to go through and create a questionnaire, asking about his past experiences, using present perfect simple, or just past completed actions using past simple. For example, when were you born? Or have you ever been to Taiwan? So I'll be giving them the opportunity to use some of the grammar that they've learned and studied already, but also to express themselves in a way that they want to. So if they want to ask Barack Obama about silly questions using the correct grammar, that's okay, I don't care. I just want to see that they're understanding and using the language correctly. So after they create their questionnaire, they will then write out the answers to that in sort of a report format. Hopefully by the end of class I can ask a few students to get up in front of the class and give a report about the whole question, interview, and report that they've created. However, before I do that, I will have groups, individual groups meet with each other and give a report about Barack Obama. Finally, during this exercise, I'm going to be listening and monitoring and helping them, of course, but afterwards what I'll do is I'll be writing down things that I hear that are erroneous or a little bit off, or right on. But anyway, I'll be taking notes about their exact answers to this. And then what I'm going to do at the end of class, I'd like to do every time, is take about 8 minutes and give a feedback session. So I'll write these things that I've actually heard in the class up on the board, and I'll ask them, so which one is correct, what's wrong, what do you guys think? I may even ask one of them to come up and do one. And the point of this is to have them correct each other anonymously so that they can correct each other and show me that they understand what they're talking about, but also not embarrass each other. So if Billy, for example, makes a broken sentence and I hear it and write it down, I'll give someone else the opportunity to correct his mistake, but without saying it was him. So this way he doesn't become insecure and he can continue learning and see what he did actually in this one example. I won't say who it is, but we'll get the opportunity to correct each other. They really like that. Finally, what I'll do to end the class is after giving feedback and asking them to give me some examples, I will give them their homework assignment. In this case, what I was going to do is to build off of this and move into the next class. I would ask them to go and research about their favorite person who is currently alive and give me a report about it. So, for example, if I were one of the students, I would talk about my favorite sports star. I would go home and write research about him and then write a little report about him, 5 or 6 sentences. Then what I want the students to do is I want them to come back to class and I will randomly select a few of them to give a report in front of the class about what they learned. And we'll do that during the warm-up section. Additionally, I will have them go into groups and give their report, and that way they can creatively express themselves and they can use language to say what they want to say and look at things that are interesting to them rather than just something I picked for them. Anyway, I thank you for watching this video, And if you have any questions or want to give me any feedback or follow up with me about this, I'd really love the opportunity to speak with you. Thanks. Bye.